Hi guys, this is going to be a short tutorial on how to do the waffle stitch on the Bella and Brin ear warmer. Alrighty, as you can see, I've already started the project on here. We have our 5 to 8 rows of waste yarn, and then we have 5 rounds of our project yarn, whatever color you've chosen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting over the first 6 stitches. But I wanted to show you, I used this as my starting pin. I don't necessarily use the one that says number 1 because this one just works better for me, but you can start on whatever pin as long as you end on the same pin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to count over from my first pin. So that's number 1 and that's number 2. So I'm going to count over 6 pins on this machine. It depends on what machine you're making it on, but this one I have 6 pins. Now I'm going to take my dry erase marker and I'm going to mark that pin so that I know each round that I do this pattern on, I know exactly where to start. So this pin right here is where I'm going to be starting my pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and knit over 6 stitches and then I'm going to start the waffle stitches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start it on this pin right here and join it with the second pin. I'm going to take my yarn out of the yarn guide and I'm going to go behind the pins and around to the front. So again, I'm going to go behind the pins and around to the front so it knits the stitch down. And here we have my runaway dry erase marker. Let me just move that. And then we are going to crank over to the next 2 pins and we are going to do the same thing. We are going to wrap from behind around the 2 pins to create our waffle stitch. I'm going to go crank over to the next 2 pins and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to wrap directly around these 2 pins. We're going to go from behind and we are going to wrap it all the way around. It's really, really, really important to wrap loosely during this step. As you're wrapping from behind, make sure that your yarn isn't super taut because it can cause you issues in your next row. So again, we're just wrapping around the pins. And on this size machine, I do 6 waffle stitches on this pattern. So I am going to go to the 6th waffle stitch, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take again my dry erase marker and I'm going to mark the ending of it. So that way, as I'm cranking and stuff, I don't have to keep count directly and I can just look at the pin and see which one's marked. So I went ahead and marked this one here and I counted over, made sure my 6 waffle stitches were there. And what I'm going to do next is just crank it over a tiny bit and then I'm going to put my yarn back into the yarn guide. Now I'm just going to knit like normal all the way back to my starting pin. And once we reach our starting pin, we are going to do 1 round of regular knit. So just 1 round of regular knit that we just did for the rest of this round. We're going to do 1 more round of it so that way it locks in those stitches to create the waffle effect. Now I'm going to show you one more time because this is the repeat. This next row, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the waffle stitches again. Now that we're back at our starting pin, I'm going to count over 6 stitches, but because I've marked it, I just go over to my mark. And then, as Leo says from Addie Express Tricks and Discoveries, you lasso around the 2 bowls. So you're going to wrap behind the pins again, and you're going to wrap underneath and so that it catches it, just like that. So in a counterclockwise motion, you're going to wrap 2 pins just like this. Now again, I'm going to make sure that I have my 6 waffle stitches and I go to where I have it marked on the machine. And sometimes just like this, you have to use your finger to help it around, but as long as you're wrapping loosely, it'll be just fine. So now that I've reached that mark, I'm going ahead and I'm going to put my yarn back in the threader and I am going to crank around to the starting pin again. Alrighty, now that we're back at our starting pin, I'm going to do, just like we did before, 1 round of regular knit. So I'm going to crank my machine around 1 more time. Now the row right after this is going to be a waffle stitch row. So depending on what machine you're using, it'll depend on how many waffle stitches you're doing, but I would count over 6 again, and then I would start my waffle stitches. I hope you found this tutorial extremely helpful, and I can't wait to see all of your Bella and Brin earwarmers.